Hello, welcome to my channel for Evolved Humans. I'm Ms. Day. This is a collective reading. So the first, I heard two songs just when I was getting ready. And I think that the first one is by Jet, but I don't remember who it is, and I don't have my phone on me. But it's that song that tried so hard to be someone that you forgot who you are. And then the other song I was hearing is Alanis Morissette, I think. And it's like, you see everything, you see every part, you see all my light, and you love my dark. That song. Crazy. Which, it's interesting because I felt like there was a mixture of emotion. So whoever this reading is for, it's like there's this mixture of emotions that are layering on top of each other in one person. So I feel like this is like two different feelings in one. It could be wrong, but it feels like one vibe, one person. So it's like conflicting emotions because that song, that first feeling I got was like almost like a feeling of exhaustion and defeat. Where you're like, okay, I've done this, 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 and this. I thought I was doing the right thing, and here I've landed unknowing of myself, it feels like. And then there's this other feeling where you are super in tune and connected. Even if you don't have the right words for this, it's like, this is making me think of an interaction I've had in the last several days with a medical professional because I've actually had some serious health issues come up since my last video that I just could not avoid. And oddly enough, it's because of things I had been avoiding putting my attention to. And, so this reading feels like these two different places in one person where it's like there's a part of you that is very clear-minded and very, very much like steadfast and with direction. And then there's this other part of you, this steadfast with direction type of thing. It's almost like there's a hopeless wall that you just hit. I don't know what that is. Because there's also whoever you are, like you identify underneath it all as someone who is very in tune with nature and very connected. And the reason that's making me think of this interaction is because I didn't meet someone, I just like re-interacted with someone so like the way that this person operates, they're just like very quick. They have to be for their profession, but they have to be able to respond to an emergency situation rapidly. So obviously that's something they're accustomed to. But the way that this person operates is very much what I mean when I say like you're very strong and you're masculine. And that applies to whoever this is for. It's crazy cool because there's like it's almost like there's a really strong balance of masculine operating system and feminine intuition. I don't even really call it intuition, but I feel like this applies here. That's funny. That's what this woman said too. Because she said she trusts her intuition a lot, this medical professional. And it's like every time I talk to this person ever, I always feel like we're talking about like spiritual things when we're not. And if this reading is for you, you know what I mean because there's like two different parts of you. You've got the part of you that can operate in the real world, and then the part of you that is very much attached to the real world. And there's something about these two layers that are not intersecting in the middle. There's something that's not like being met in the middle. It's so weird. Which is interesting because as soon as I sat the reading down It was kind of confusing because whoever you are, it's almost like you've hit this like weird flatline moment. Whether recent or just like it feels kind of recent. It feels a little fresh. Like there's this flatline moment, like a brick wall type of moment for some of you where it's more abrupt. And then some of you, it's like you've been trying to avoid this moment of defeat, of unknowing, of it makes me think of that moment of indecision when you don't know what to do. So, but you have to take you have no other choice but to take a step back and just kind of observe your surroundings for a minute. I actually thought about that earlier today. It's kind of cute, but there was just this flashback to some scene in some Lost in Space episode years ago, and it was just like, the fact is you have to step back and look at a situation from a different view. Okay. So, whoever this reading is for, I feel like okay. There are a lot of conflicting emotions. And it actually feels like this is like happening inside of your body. Duh. I know that's where emotions. It's where you feel emotions. But it's like, this feels like it's almost like the up and down has come to a halt. So you're aware of like these different conflicting emotions, but there's like a frozen moment in time where you can look at them almost as an outsider because you have no other choice to. It's weird because I keep feeling like too that whoever this reading is for, okay, for sure, you've taken a different route with your healing. I don't know. There's someone in here who's got like, I just keep feeling like there's this institution type of direction where I don't know if this is throughout like your entire childhood and adolescence, but it's almost, whoa, like two conflicting emotions happened where it feels like whoever this is for, like during your upbringing, this is going to be a different type of pull for some of you, but the wave feels like there's this two-sided thing where it's like you're feeling two kind of conflicting things at once. And that's kind of how I feel like there was a confusing upbringing for whoever this reading is for. And I think it was to do with like certain types of institutional types of things. Maybe like that messed with your head. Because I feel there's this like, yeah, I'm getting like tingling in my head. If you're feeling at a loss right now, it makes me think of like, you know how some people, if you break your foot and you're a very active person and having to give yourself that time to heal is infuriating. It's like you have to take the time to bridge the gap between what you know of the world and what you've learned on your own about the world. It's like there's something about these two things that needs to come together where, crazy. So this is like the coolest, weirdest thing because it feels like almost like there's a battle in one person between these two things and you came out on top. Like you won in between these two conflicting, it's like a feud. It's like an internal feud. What? Yeah. So, okay. I feel like someone is hesitant and lacking direction, and it's to do with your own healing journey. And I feel like, okay, the biggest thing I keep avoiding saying, it's so weird because like I just keep thinking this thing that I'm not saying out my mouth. And I think that's because it's like whoever you are, I don't know if you hide from your true self or if you have a tendency to hide your true self from others. Ooh. There is this crazy, like, feel. I even wrote this down like days ago. And it's in my head now. I'm not sure where it is. There's this thing that someone's like got a tendency to not blame others. Okay. If you had a tendency to like overcompensate for other people, maybe it's just in your operating. Like, I think it's a part of your really positive, nurturing, natural energy, like your natural self. And then I think your masculine has almost been like keeping that, it's like keeping a softness at bay because you've gone through so much healing of your own. And I think that you have a very large wrath. So it feels like a huge separation between kind of two different pathways you've observed in the world. And it's almost like you're missing. It's almost like the gaze is stuck downward, and I feel like there's a positive feeling. This is nuts. Because there's also something else that it makes me think of that I heard. There's like a lot of random stuff happening. This one is very much about if you have fought really hard for your own healing, and it is not, gosh, I know this sounds like such a duh, but it has not been easy. But it has not been easy. It's like it's been so... I even heard right when I sat down to do this, like, it made me think of... I think it might even be... This is deep. It might be... I don't know who it is. But there's some poem that this makes me think of where it's like, rage, rage against the dying of the light. I feel like that's kind of your spirit. Like super, super, you know the people that like kind of bull ahead? Sometimes we think that they are, like you might think, it's weird because typically if I were thinking of this type of personality trait, I would kind of see it as a negative. And I don't mean that to be a jerk. I'm just saying like it's kind of strange because I'm seeing it in a different way than I ever do. Because at first, like, I'm thinking of someone who's bullying through, but it's with such a good reason. Like, such a good, it feels righteous. It's like a righteous type of thing. So, this is strange. Okay. I also wondered as soon as I got ready too, it's like this reading makes me feel like somebody's got this idea of a reward coming and they've let it go. Like I feel like you've given up on a reward type of thing, and there's something about that makes me feel like maybe that feels like a big disappointing, like kind of like just kind of a heavy, maybe it feels like a weight of disappointment. Maybe that's what that is. But it feels like this rage against the dying of the light. this reading is for someone who feels, I think there's like this weird feeling of it all being for nothing. Like, not for nothing, but like everything you've gone through sort of coming to this moment of, oh, maybe I can't do anything special. Maybe I can't. This is weird because it gave me this vibe of like, you need to communicate how you got here instead of like sitting at this place where I think your body is responding out of habit. Just from your whole life. So like no big deal. That can't be easy to break that habit. So and that's it too. It's like there's a patience that you have had for other people, even if you don't portray it. It's like there's this giant knowing underneath all of the layers of you, and you just have this understanding almost in like a parenting, nurturing way at everyone, at other people. And I think there's also this feeling of like you couldn't help someone in particular. This is not everyone, but someone in here feels like they couldn't help someone in particular. And I think that that's a wave of disappointment for some people. But there's this avoidance of it making a difference in the world. And I think it's not that you have put your best foot forward at doing such a thing and it failed. I think that this is a confusion between that knowing and that knowing the evidence that you've seen this far in life. It's like these two things have to align with each other now, where you have to recognize there's not like okay, I just need to say this strange thing. I know I've said this before. I don't know if I've said this before, but it just feels like I can't not say it. It's someone in here has removed this feeling of something magical. I don't know what this is. Almost like a mystical type of thing. There's something that's fantasy-esque that has been released because it has been a harsh reality. I don't know what that is. It's like a false narrative of something, a strange worldview. I don't know what this is, but something has come to a complete halt because it is unavoidably true. Like you can't avoid it. I don't know what I just said, whatever those words are, if that was right. But I also get this huge feeling like where you feel this stagnation and this still frozen moment in time, it's like this is where that part of you that never gave up, that raging like beast, I don't know. It's like this raging animal in there that was like never, it's just this steadfast forward, never quit, never quit, never quit. It's kind of like feels like a bowling motion, but it's in such an intentional way. I think that's why it feels like such a positive thing. It's like I'm seeing it, and it's because the world, I think, that you've kind of navigated in, it's almost like I'm seeing it weird. Like Tetris, where negative things were always kind of like always in your view, always happening around you, to those around you, and because of those around you. And I feel like you were always just kind of like, oh, okay, nope, like just kind of dodging everything as it was always falling down around you. And this is where it makes more sense. Because that whole, you see all of me, you see every part, you see all my dark or all my light, and you love my dark. This is for someone who feels like, whoever you are, like if you're lacking, I don't know if it's lacking motivation or if you're lacking some sort of feeling of it being worth it, or it being worth another two different things. It's like, it's okay to take a breather, but don't rest so long you quit. Whatever this is, like there's something in the middle that has to come together. And it's almost like, okay, you know, I just feel like when we're doing this type of stuff, when we're doing like spiritual type of stuff, energy work, and it's interesting because it makes me think of this woman I was talking to that I mentioned earlier. Because when you don't think you have a special connection, it's almost like you don't see your own light. I know, that sounds like, again, that sounds so cliche, like, oh, well, duh, you don't see your own light if you don't see your gift. But I don't mean that, because it feels like really important that everybody talks their own way, and I kind of have my own way. And that's why certain people are like in my vibe and some people are not. And then like we just kind of intersect and try it out and then see how it goes and then move apart if we don't resonate. So like where I'm at, what I follow is, again, not created by me, but a for sure. It's that basically, like, because every action has, like Sir Isaac Newton said, whatever. It's like, if every action has an equal and opposite reaction, then for the stuff that has to do with healing, every reaction is an action. So it's like whoever you are, you have a very strong force about you. And thus far, it feels like you've had to use that force to survive and to navigate through the weird trenches of this weird world that we've got and created for ourselves amidst the natural world we live in. And it's like all of that fight that you have in you, that is the light moving. I know, I don't care how silly it sounds, but like when you're bullying through to survive, whoever this is for, if this is for you, like you relate to it, you know why it feels like such a strong force. Like I think you even might, you have a really large wrath should anyone accidentally encounter it, or should it be exposed. And the strangeness is, it's like this is supposed to be giving you the message of you have that for another reason now. You used that for you to survive and navigate. And now it's like, you're like, well, what do I do? And it's almost like you're avoiding that you navigated in this weird world because of your connection to the natural world, which comes naturally to you, whoever you are. It's like, if you can navigate through this is crazy. This is like everything I'm talking to everyone about, even through my own health stuff. I feel like everyone I'm encountering, there is a reason for what you go through to be spoken. Not to expose, private stuff, because I get like, I'm private about certain things. There are certain things I'll never say because it's not to be shared, because it's not only my information. But I can't stop thinking of the freaking simplicity of the scientific method, because that's everything. Like, if you just think about, please, if you have gone through this stuff and you're struggling to know, what do I do? What am I going to do with it? What you have to do, because you survived and you navigated in this world and you have this underlying connection to the natural world that not everybody can see all the time. Like, they can't see that interaction, but you naturally have kept it. I think it's because it's the only thing you could count on, even if you didn't even know how to put your finger on it, which is crazy. But it's like, this is kind of that moment where it's impossible to not have a reason to put your information to use. Because the reason you made it to this point was to survive. It was to heal. It was to grow. It was to not quit. It was to not be defeated by this world and not be taken down. Like Tetris, where everything just constantly is trying to take you down. And I feel like it all came to this weird halt moment where it seems like there's a lot of this feeling of like, well, I think we all have a little bit of this connection. I think you have a big part of this connection, which is actually interesting, because if you are unsure, if you're supposed to use what you've gone through and like your experiences and your healing journey, this feels very much like all I keep thinking is that last step, that communicate results. Communicate your results. Why? Because you are an experiment gone well. For whatever reason that you could navigate and you could survive, it may feel, this is so weird, because before I did this reading, I had this strange reaction, which is not characteristic anymore because I'm so used to it. It's like I've shut off this weird irritable feeling I get when I'm going to do a reading. So if you're unsure, especially if you're unsure, it's like that song that I heard in the beginning, that, both of them, that tried so hard to be someone that you forgot who you are. Like, who you are is who made it. Who you are isn't the Tetris blocks that were falling at you. That's not you, which I think can feel almost like a shock when you make it out of that race, which is crazy. But, and then the other song that, like, you see everything, you see every part, you see all my light and you love my dark. I feel like when you're feeling this irritable feeling, I had that before this reading, so someone needs to know that, because that's like a sign for me, because I wasn't like, do I need to do a reading? I knew I was going to do a reading. So if you're getting this like irritable, almost like overstimulated, like you need to do something, you need to drink something, you need to eat something, you need to get the hell away from people. If you just walk into a room and there's one person sitting there reading a book in silence, and it can like rub you the wrong way, and you're like, I'm crowded. That is a moment for you to do a reading. So basically, if you're experiencing that and you're like, and this whole reading has applied to you, like if you're at that moment and you're like, I'm not going to get a reward. Well, no, it's not a reward. It's an accomplishment, because we are all working together. Even that's, you know what's weird? That thing I heard, that like rage against the dying of the light, that is really old. Like, that's old. That's not, I mean, I know it's not ancient, but it certainly isn't modern. Like, that's not something that we hear very frequently. This makes me feel like there is, like, it's not a specific, it just feels like it's not a specific type of thing where, like, if you're wondering, well, what's my special thing? What's my special way? How am I going to do this special thing? It's your healing. It's how did you make it through? What was your reason to fight? Because everyone's got a different one. Whew, this is crazy. Oh my gosh. I thought about this, the book Dracula? Probably not. I mean, yeah, duh. Everybody knows about Dracula, especially if you've seen like the bad movies that they've made about it. But the book Dracula it's my favorite book of all time. Because it's written in such a weirdly unique way. And like, that's the reward. Like, for that piece of art at that point in time, it survived. And it's still unique. If you don't know why, like, the book Dracula is so uniquely written, it's written in newspaper articles, journal entries, letters. Like, it's not written as just a story. And it's an art piece. And so many of you, if you get this overstimulated, pissed off feeling, and you're not sure why, and you're literally not overstimulated, sometimes it's because you've healed, so you can see all the stuff. And so frequently, when you've healed through a lot of the negative and the dark, then that's the first thing you experience, where you're like, oh, there's negative. But you don't have to stay there. This is not a Tetris block falling on you anymore. This is something that you've already won the game. So it's like you literally are at that moment where now your reason is outside of yourself. That's the reward, is that it's a gift to, it's everyone. It's consciousness. Like when we say it's a collective reading, it's not just some people that like this stuff. Sometimes people listen to these things and they're like, oh, that's creepishly aligned, and they click away because it's uncomfortable. We've all done that with something. And this is especially for someone like that, because this is it's such a natural kind of instinctual reflex for you to just block. But that's your human habit. So when you sense this negative and you're like, oh, I can't do anything. Well, this is the reality of the world. I've survived it. For what? I can't change it. But you're something. Like, you're a part of it. So if you've gotten through something that you can help another person through, it's like, communicate the results. Because if you've had good results and you haven't done what everybody else is trying, then it's almost like, don't we have a responsibility to share those results? Like, isn't it like the best thing we could possibly do for everyone that we're here with? And for those who have already passed? Because when you experience this type of navigating and you make it through, it's like some of them didn't. Some of them didn't. Like, don't underestimate that one human can do things. Like, that's why I keep thinking of that, Mr. Newton, who's like the reason that we even say for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Because we cling to that. So many people cling to that because it aligns with our entire existence. Everything. So if you found your way, then communicating that and someone receiving it, just think about that. Is one person experiencing is one person experiencing what it is that you can teach them? If it can guide them, if they have that fire to fight too, and you're the voice that can make them know And it's not just your connection where you have this underlying connection, so you've gotten these signs from consciousness your whole life. Some people don't feel that. And it's not because they aren't chosen. It's not because they're not just as important. So it's like, this is where these two parts of you need to intersect, where, oh, well, there's not a special one. There's not a chosen one. There's not this, there's almost like this reality that I feel like someone's being faced with. And they're like, yes, so don't avoid that reality. Make it matter. Like, you can do something. If your wrath is as large as it is, which is crazy that it's this underlying feeling that like you keep at bay. It's like, use that when you get this irritable, like overstimulated feeling, use it to do too much, be too much, communicate what other people are not communicating. Because this is so crazy, but if one person can benefit, then that's literally, like, think about the benefit in one line. Just that one, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We all buy that. I mean, unless we don't by science, but whatever. But like, that's one line. And it serves as a foundation for so many people to continue forward when someone does something negative to them. It's like it gives them this sense of justice. Even if they won't witness it, they get this sense of justice in the world, even if it's not visible. And I feel like this is kind of that. Okay. This is so intense. I don't care. I guess it's because it's been so many days, but like, you know how sometimes that's kind of like this other thing. Just because you can't see a good thing at like one particular moment in time doesn't mean that consciousness isn't working where you can't see them to try to help one another. Because like, this is insanely, it makes me think of the Amber Alert. And if you don't know how the Amber Alert came about, it's because of a girl named Amber who was murdered brutally, horribly, terrible, and the horrific end to her life did not end her light existing on this plane, because her family decided to carry her light in their walk. And what that did was, so when she passed and this horrible thing happened, was it justified? No. Did it make sense? Was it for a reason? No. But because it happened, her family, those that cared about her light, those that loved it, they made it for a reason. They made her life coming to that horrific end. They created a positive outcome for other children because of it. If that is not healing, then like, I don't know what is. Because that is human healing. That's not just for themselves. Because there was no reward in just, let's talk about what happened. The reward was not the pain. The reward was, look at what her light has done now. It saved other light. It didn't stop her pain from having happened. But her pain was not her story. if your force and your wrath is this strong, so strong that you have had to avoid parts of yourself to keep it under control. Oh, I feel that. I feel that. Someone, I won't go into that. It's getting a little long. But if you have gone through your healing journey and you wonder if you should communicate it like just as someone else in the human world with you, like if my child or my sister or my brother could hear what you have been through because they do not like listening to me, then you're helping me if you speak it out into the world. Because wherever it goes, it is held forever. Because consciousness is like this awesome eternity bubble where whatever is true is always true. But we can always, there's always someone working behind the scenes to help. That's one of the coolest things I've learned in these years of like clearing homes. I've never come across a dead person that was forgotten. There's always someone just waiting for them to remember that they are light too. Always. And this is kind of crazy because I feel like there's this thing that I just keep thinking too throughout this, which is like, maybe it's not a big deal, but maybe somebody needs to hear it because it sounds like very insignificant, but it's so big in my head right now. And it's this thing that I had heard, probably Jim Rohn. I think Jim Rohn said it. I think. He says everything that I say. But he's one of my favorites. But he said something like, don't try to fight it, just go with it. And it makes, try to work with it. And then it makes me think of, somebody that actually drove me crazy years ago. And this person drove me nuts. But they said something intelligent and I used it. I put it to use. I could not avoid that it was useful and true. And it's not always going to feel good when you experience the truth. That's what this is about. If you feel this irritated feeling and you're almost beside yourself and you're not sure what to do with yourself. If you're a creative person and you feel a block and you're like, well, I have all this stuff next to me. I don't know what to do. I'm having writer's block. I don't know. It's or maybe it's this stiff frozen feeling of I don't know where to start. I feel like you've got to start somewhere. Be new at it. Be new. I think that's why I thought of the Dracula book too, because I feel like the people that I'm talking to, there's such a weird creativity in the businesses that we all have. I don't believe in individual special magical abilities, but I do think that we all have an individual way of guiding others to theirs. And I think that whoever you are, when you're getting overly irritated, it's not because of something wrong with you. It's because you're sensing something wrong. And you're good at that. That's not always fun. But when you get good at that, you're good at that. It's needed. Communicate your results. Okay. And I just heard the song too in my head, that Imogen Heap. It was the song, it's Glittering Cloud. When she's get it down your dance. It's you have got to see that there's a reason for your strength of will. There's a reason for that. That can move stuff. Whether it can be seen or not, you know what can happen behind the scenes. Okay. I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this is helpful. I know it's been a while. Hopefully everyone is doing well health-wise and keeping safe and all that. Let me know in the comments if this resonates at all, and I will definitely see you in the next videos. I hope everyone's doing okay. Subscribe if you feel like any of the readings resonate at any time.